So today I'm going to be talking about evaluating the implementation of second layer cross-chain bridge or a blockchain-agnostic decentralized Oracle protocol. So basically we should start on the topics which we would cover today. Basically it's how to implement your own bridge and the security requirements in order to achieve this goal, and how can decentralized networks can be more generic, not applying to only bridge problems. There are a lot of problems over there, not only bridge, where just transfer tokens. Particularly the bridge problem is more like, the cross-chain problem is more like transferring data, and oracles can be not cross-chain. And we also mentioned the limitations of the designs, and which can be improved later on. And we also mentioned the financial future of bridges. And it's worth mentioning how at Hardron we solve this problem as well. So about me, at the moment I'm the CTO and founder of Hardron Network. Basically it's a cross-chain bridge utilizing L2 solution as interchain network. And the last 2 years I was all in building bridges and doing market making upon them, because wrapped assets face liquidity issues, and even the well-known bridges as well as Wormhole, they have some problems regarding liquidity. And the two major projects I took part in are the Neutrino and Gravity. Neutrino is an algorithmic stablecoin that has been launched in 2019, and at the moment it resides in top 10 list of stablecoins by CMC. And Gravity protocol is basically a cross-chain network that uses agnostic solution, doesn't have any token, and it's been launched in 2020, and it lived 1 year, and it used Tendermint as the interchain network. Tendermint is the same as Cosmos SDK. And it's worth mentioning what you need to build a cross-chain network. Basically, you need consensus mechanism on top of target chains. And you can choose which interchain solution is more convenient for you. It can be agnostic like Tendermint or chain dependent like Chainlink. Last year Chainlink presented something called Decentralized Oracle Networks, and it allows to maintain Chainlink nodes as the network itself. And I think the success of the Chainlink is mainly achieved by the fact that they used like plug-and-play solution. Basically you can run one script and you have already one Chainlink node. And also you can choose consensus between nodes. PBFT is used in Tendermint, proof of authority or proof of stake. Solana uses proof of history. Regarding origin and destination chains, it's more about bridges, but you have to maintain, for smart contract enabled blockchains, you have to maintain at least one contract for data processing. But for chains like Bitcoin without like smart contract support, you can use thumbsinks that's used by centralized exchanges. Like you should manually maintain addresses for depositing tokens. And you also need adapters, as I have already mentioned. So today we will compare 4 different solutions and examine their limitations as well. Particularly, one of the most successful are Wormhole and multi-chain, but multi-chain was the first, and I think it's the strongest solution nowadays, because it has almost all the needs, like it fulfills all the needs that current users require from bridges. And Wormhole is one of the best solutions for Solana as well. So regarding Wormhole, it's worth mentioning that they have their interchain solution built from scratch. It's called something like Gossip Protocol. They don't document it as well, like it's not proposed as a solution like for users. It's more like they describe how the interchain works. Basically it maintains, if someone makes a log transaction on the origin chain, all the validators, they maintain the log transaction and put the signed version. It's called VAA into the database. After that, once the process is completed, for instance, Ethereum requires like 15 confirmations, Solana requires 32 confirmations. After that, the tokens can be withdrawn on a wrapped chain. So basically, it's a representation of their how their smart contract works. And more importantly, they have also one huge problem. It's called that they do not distinguish the target chain's wrapped assets. Particularly in October 2021, if I'm not mistaken, I wanted to wrap Solana token to Binance Smart Chain because Ethereum had huge fees, and I didn't receive any token. I had to attest it, first of all. It means that the wormhole has permissionless token wrapping. And the guy in the discussion group told me that I'm the first person to wrap Sol into Binance Smart Chain, which was hilarious. And after that, after the time spent, I've started digging more into how the bridge works, and there is a huge problem. It's called recursive wrapping problem. It means that if you wrap the same token, like we have USDC on Ethereum and USDC on Polygon, the target chain will not distinguish it. And here is the representation, the problem on the Solana blockchain. It's the same on all destination chains. And everyone's not talking about it because they have to maintain, for each pool, they have to maintain like the same amount of tokens. And summing it up, it's worth mentioning that it has like the best pro is like they have 19 validators. It's pretty like trustless system. They have a huge liquidity, and it's very fast. But it has problems regarding it's just not flexible enough, and it's bound to destination. More importantly, it has manual settlement on destination chains. At the first stage, Wormhole, before the release, they had like manual settlement on all chains. It's because they had the Certus1 is the team behind the Wormhole. They had a very huge understanding how Solana works, and they implemented the same algorithm on Ethereum, but it's not working. I mean, there is not the best approach. It cannot be considered as best practice. So that's why they automated it on EVMs, but they did not do it on Solana chain. Next up is multichain.org. It's pretty one of the simplest solutions, one of the best, because they have smart routing of the assets. It means that USDT, for instance, is the same on all chains, on all EVMs, and you can just lock your USDT on Ethereum, wrap them to Binance Smart Chain, and move the USDT you wrapped between EVM chains without touching Ethereum. Basically, the main problem of bridges is that you have all the liquidities on Ethereum and you're unable to maintain it without paying high gas fees. But multi-chain solves this problem for some of the tokens via permission wrap listing, wrap token listing. Basically, you have to fill out the Google form to make a token wrapped. Sometimes when network congestion happening, it can take a long time for transfer completion, but it's all automatic. And it also has a unique consensus mechanism called MPEC. And thanks to that, we have like smart routing. SUSE-V1 is like the first legacy implementation of the bridges on top of Gravity protocol. It had a lot of unnecessary layers because we wanted to maintain, first of all, Gravity protocol as a generic solution for price fees as well. And the main goal was to make any application decentralized. We wanted to make cross-chain dApps as well. Basically, you borrow USDC on Aave, and you move your assets. You can pay your loan back on like Binance Smart Chain, for instance, and the data is synchronized. Basically, it means that you made loan on one chain, and on the other chain you paid your loan back. And it's worth mentioning that it has three important layers. We distinguish them as network layer and application layer. Application layer is called user smart contract, and LU port is like lock unlock port, IB port is issue burn port, and the extractor is the only source of truth here. Enable smart contract implements the behavior as a chain link keeper. Basically, it only processes transaction based on the input from the extractor, and it has proven that Nebula can be considered as our engineering for a bridge use case. Basically, you don't need a keeper there, you just need to validate every transaction like from the validators as well. They just, something is called relayer should automatically settle the funds to user account. An extractor is the weakest point of the system. More importantly, we also realized that we need we don't need a token for this network, and we thought we should rely on the fees based on native tokens on native chains. And the only pro, I think, is that we had fast settlement of transfers because we had 3-round validation. It's called like commit review scheme. And I won't dive too much into the limitations. SUSE-V2 had the same problem, but we maintained the mesh network. It helped to fix the problem as multi-chain. And it's the comparison with wormhole. There is some mistake here because AnySwap became multi-chain and they actually have mesh architecture in place. And they have also liquidity incentives. So we should also mention what comes next. The next thing that comes is finance. No one's talking about the problem of liquidity in bridges. And the things that are not mentioned, not much, but I've seen these things being discussed on Twitter, is the scarcity of liquid wrapped assets between different chains. Also the price discrepancy. Right after the Luna case, a lot of terrible things happened because one team cannot do all the market making, and people that had wrapped assets, that wrapped UST in Luna on wormhole, lost all their funds. And what we propose at Hardron is to split some amount of tokens into treasury, and this contract will maintain tokens to align in severe market conditions, to align pools. Basically, it prevents a situation if some token plummets to zero, you will lose only like 50% of your funds because of the liquidity, like liquid assets. It's sometimes the second token in pair will be stored on Collider treasury. And for instance, the normal scenario happened with wormhole. Looks like this, and what I propose is like we should maintain aligning of the price, and via 4 steps the aligning occurs. For instance, the collider is the mechanism that maintains, it's actually a black box. Before we achieve the audit, it's going to be a black box. Basically what it does, it understands where the price impact occurs, and without making a cross-chain transfer, it will align the market because it has liquidity on both sides. And on the third step, the cyclic swap happens. It allows to align the market, and the process is repeated before the severe market conditions maintain. If it goes to zero, as I have already mentioned, the pools will be withdrawn, but the treasury will maintain liquid tokens. So I think